Hey, Ronnie Dale, Fourwheeling at westernaustralia.com, and in this video I'm going to give you guys, you four-wheelers out there, some advice and tips on what you should be doing while you are airing up after you've been four-wheeling. So this video is mainly for beginners, but for the experienced drivers out there, there may still be a thing or two that you haven't thought of and that you might pick up on. So stay tuned. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to talk about why we need to disengage four-wheel drive and what will happen if we don't. And then I'll get on to why we need to re-inflate the tyres and how high you should be going if you're going to hit that highway, even if it's just for 100 k's before you go off-road again. And what can happen to your tyres if you don't. So we'll start with four-wheel drive. One of the most important tips is when you've got a convoy and you're ready to go home, you've aired up, you're ready to hit the highway, just get on the radio and ask the question, hey guys, have you all got it out of
four-wheel drive? Carl and Charlie, start with you.
Yeah.
Yep, all out here.
Yeah, all good. Roger that.
Four-wheel drive and 4x4. I'm only going to briefly cover this because I have a video coming out later on which is all-wheel drive versus four-wheel drive, so you can understand the difference on the two, because I get asked this all the time. It's very hard to understand unless it's explained to you proper. And I'm not going to do this in this video because this video is going to be so long. We're mainly covering what you should be doing after four-wheeling. So, four-wheel drive. This is a part-time four-wheel drive, and that means that I have to select four-wheel drive, otherwise it's in two-wheel drive. So when I select and I put it in four-wheel drive, 50% of the power goes to the front and 50% of the power goes to the back. And then when I'm on loose surface and I'm turning, the outside wheel does more rotations than the inside wheel. So that's fine because it can slip. One side can slip a bit or we'll just send power to the other side. But when you're in four-wheel drive and you hit the bitumen, you're not just worried about energy being released either side. It's a bit harder to be released. But the problem is the bind up that happens from the power split. You're sending 50 to the front, 50 to the back. Your front wheels are going to do more traveling than the back wheels. So when you're turning, the outside one does also more than the other back outside one. If you go on a straight line, you should be okay because all the wheels, equal contact, equal distance they're traveling, equal rotations. The minute you start turning, you're going to get understeer. Everything's going to bind up. And the more turns you do and the longer you hold it for, all these stresses and energy cannot be released, because when you lock it into four-wheel drive, it's locked. You're locking 50% to the front, 50% to the back. No power exchange can happen between. There's no difference can be made, like a differential. So this bind up get worse and worse. All the stresses will end up going into your transfer case and your prop shafts. Look, anything can go. Anything can end up going on your vehicle. You can even snap an axle from this. Just the bind up of energy needs to be released somewhere. When you're on solid surfaces and you forget to take it out of full drive and you start feeling understeer and steering gets really, really tough to turn, pull over off to the side of the road immediately. Even just get half the vehicle off the road in the gravel, and if you're lucky, it may be able to get rid of that energy on the gravel. Otherwise, pull the whole vehicle over onto the shoulder of the road and just try and get it out of four-wheel drive. So that's all I'm going to touch on with the four-wheel drive, why you need to get out of it. But just, I can't stress to you enough, get out of four-wheel drive before you hit that highway. So we all know why we need to inflate tyres, right? Because we already lowered them to go off-road. And if you don't know about lowering tyres and why we do it, there is a link up here, and surprisingly there's a lot of people that don't know. It's not something we're all taught. So after four-wheeling, it doesn't matter which tyres you have. It could be these or these tyres. You need to inflate your tyre. You can't just drive home on low pressure. You can't just hit the highway for a short burst of maybe 50 k's on really low pressure, because you're going to damage your tyres. We need to re-inflate these, and there are two main reasons for it. Well, I have two main reasons for it. We'll start with the obvious one. If you have 20 psi in a tyre, you normally have 38 or 40 or 45 or 50 on the highway. At high speed, you're taking some corners, some pretty wild corners on the highway, which happens sometimes. These tyres are going to flex, the sidewall's going to flex heaps. And you may pull the tyre off the rim. And you don't want that at high speed. You don't want it at slow speed. It could be catastrophic. My second reason, and one that not many people know about, is all these tyres have recommendations for weight. So, briefly, this tyre here, a max single tyre can take a load of 1450 kilograms. And that is at cold PSI, cold 50 PSI. When this tyre is at 50 PSI cold, it can hold 1450 kilos, 1.4 tonne. That is what this can hold. So let's take 25 PSI out. Now I'm not sure if that is going to halve it truly, but I'm going to assume it's at least half or less. This tyre now has 750 kilogram capacity, right? Think about all the weights on your vehicle, all the weight. Bull bar, lights, roof rack, cargo, water, food, 2 spare tyres, extra fuel tanks, all this stuff, especially here in Australia. If you have a touring rig set up for touring, you're going to have a lot of weight in that vehicle. That's why you buy these tyres that can hold all this weight. Now, lowering your tyre is fine at slow speed, but if you go at high speed, those loads aren't going to be there if you are at low PSI. You're going to destroy the tyre from the inside. You're going to end up with some eggs on your tyre, you know, the bulges. That is because your steel belts and your pliers, nylon layers, or all that stuff that's inside the tyre, they're starting to split apart, and the air is trying to escape out of the tyre. It goes to the least resistance, right? So your rubber's going to bulge out. If you see that, take that tyre off immediately. It is about to go. This tyre right here, in fact, it has an egg in it, and we believe it's probably due to that fact that it's been run too fast on lower pressures. Okay, so here's another one. Whilst you're airing up, say if I'm airing up the front tyre here, which I will be doing shortly, just peer your head around and just have a look. Now for me, there's not too much I've got to worry about to look for, but on an IFS vehicle, independent front suspension vehicle, you're going to have boots around your CVs. Now all vehicles have CVs. I have CVs, but I don't have boots around them because I have a solid axle. For the guys with the rubber boots on the CVs, just peer around, have a look. If it looks like there's a bit of oil or something coming out of it, just feel around, see if there's a hole anywhere, because if there is a hole, you want to plug it up right now with some tape or something, so you're not going to lose all your CV oil on your way home and destroy your CV. Also, if you notice a little pinprick, it's worth getting it to a mechanic or getting a new boot, CV boot yourself, and putting it back on. Otherwise, you could have some troubles there in future. I've seen many times before these CV boots getting squashed. It happens quite easily, especially when you're going through some bog holes and stuff like that. So just get under there and have a look at both sides. But that's not the only place to check. So while you got this bad boy filling your tyres up, you get underneath. Even if you don't know what you're looking at, you can, it's pretty easy to detect damage. And if you're not sure, ask a mate, ask a friend, and they might know, and they might say, ooh, that's not good. But just get underneath, have a look, if any sticks sticking out anywhere, pull them out. You don't want them on the highway. Just check for anything shiny. That's usually where you've been in contact with something. Oil splatter and diff oils, your grease, anything like that. If there's a lot of stuff splashing around that shouldn't be splashing around, you can easily detect where it is, because that mud will be a darker color because it's got a bit more of a wet look to it. We're talking about dry mud here, of course. You'll be able to easily detect if you have a leak somewhere. So just get underneath and have a look. And don't do that. What I'm doing wrong here is I'm filling up my air without having the engine on. You don't want to do that. You're just going to kill your battery. You need the engine running, and the alternator, the engine, will power your compressor. So while you are airing up, you can also walk around your car, grab a stick, longer than that of course, and if you have a lot of mud, like I've got nothing here to worry about, if you've got a lot of chunks everywhere, you're going to do yourself a favour by scratching most of it off at the end of the track as you possibly can. And it's just those big chunks, just get them off, because then you're not flicking stuff at your mate, even though it might be funny to do so. Just get it off now, especially around your rim. If you can get it off now, do it now while you're airing up. You won't have a tyre that's so unbalanced on the way home, because those mud chunks, once they're set, they're so hard to get off, and they will set your wheel balance out. And those other chunks, you're going to thank yourself later that you went underneath all these areas with a stick and you just got most of it off. It's going to be a lot easier to clean later. Ready to air up, and you notice one tyre is a bit lower than the rest of the tyres, then it could either be your valve stem or your valve core that's leaking, or it could be your rim. So this here is a common occurrence when four-wheeling, especially when there's rocks and you're playing in the clay, or you're just going through rocky terrain with low tyres. You can hit something pretty hard, and this has been beaten back a little bit. And if it does happen, just get a hammer, beat that rim back in order. Of course, if you have an alloy rim, well, you're kind of stuffed. You can't really beat that, you end up cracking it. But for those guys with the steel rims, just bash it back in. And now onto your valve core. When you are deflating your tyres quite often, you're pulling the valve core out, you're putting it back in. If you use a rapid tyre deflator, stuff gets into the tyre, stuff will then come out of your valve core. And every time you pull that core in and out to let your air out of your tyres, even if you push this in, what's going to happen is that dirt's going to get in there, and if it's mud, it's corrosive, it's going to get onto that valve core and you might get a slow leak. And the best way to find out if you've got a slow leak is a bit of spit in your finger, hold it over, and you'll be able to feel it bubbling out. Sometimes you can even just feel it by pushing here. But on a previous trip, this is how I changed my valve stem. These are all the spares that I carry. I've got a whole heap of these. Now the reason why I keep all these spares is because I run tag along tours, so it kind of happens on a regular basis that someone has a valve core issue. So let's go around and do it. So in most kits, tyre repair kits, you'll get one of these items here. Now this part here is for removing the core, which slots in there. So I'll show you how to do it without losing the old one or the new one. You can even lower your tyres with this. Just like a screw, loosens the same way. You're just going to be ready for it because it'll pop out. You just finger tighten it, you don't over tighten it, otherwise you're going to end up with the same problem again. I learned that the hard way. So you pinch it like this, insert it, twist. Once it's got a bit of thread on it, you can let go of that bit. So that's fixed now. Now I'm just going to air up. I just mixed the dodgy one with the good ones. I'll work that one out later. So there's a don't do as well. Another thing to do, make sure everything's secure in your car as well. Because after you've been full driving, a lot of stuff can rattle around, and if it's not tied down, you're going 110 k's per hour, you're going on the highway or something might come off, and that may not be very good for whoever's behind you. Baby wipes. These are excellent. Before you hit that highway, because the cops are big on this kind of stuff, if you got your headlights that are dirty or your number plate that's dirty, like this here, now obviously we're throwing some dirt on it to make it look realistic, but usually when it's muddy conditions or in a lot more red dirt than we have been, this is what wipes are good for. Just to keep the boys in blue happy. Because if you're like most of us, there's probably something on your vehicle that they can pick. Another thing as well is your headlights. And you'll be doing yourself a favour as well, and other road users, is to clean your headlights. And the tail lights too. That's another good one to clean, because if you've been in that red dirt or mud, your tail lights might be almost impossible to see. So we clean the headlights, we clean the license plate. Also a good idea to clean your mirror too, because you're going to need that for the drive home. So my next tip here is, on your drive home, it's a good idea to pay attention to all your instruments on your dashboard. So for example, I have my pillar pods, I've got boosts, and I've got EGTs. EGT being exhaust gas temperature. So what you're looking for is abnormalities on your way home. And if you keep looking at all these instruments while you're driving on a regular basis, you'll know what's normal. And you'll quickly discover if there's anything out of whack. And what's even better is when you get these scan gauges too. Scan gauge 2, or an OBD sensor, you plug it in underneath your vehicle, and then you can see what's going on. Water temperature. And I know that my water temperature is normal within 75 degrees Celsius up to, say, 90 if I'm climbing a hill on a highway. So if that is running higher and I've been playing in the mud, there's obviously a bit of mud in the radiator or something. There's something amiss. So that's where you're going to find out if anything's wrong. Also, you can find out if there's anything wrong with your alternator, because I have a voltmeter, and that's going pretty good at the moment. But I'm just saying, have a look, and you'll notice if there's anything not right. Another thing you can do as well is, once you get up into speed, feel it through your steering wheel. Does everything feel normal? Is your steering wheel straight like it was before? A lot of things can happen when you're off-road, especially when you're on the harder tracks. You bump around. You know, there's a lot of stuff that can have a factor on your vehicle. If you've been rock climbing a lot and you know you've bottomed out and you can feel a vibration through your gear stick and all this stuff, maybe your drive shaft is a bit bent. So there's a lot of things you need to factor in. Okay, so I hope those tips are going to help you out. And the main ones, reinflate your tyres, check everyone's out of four-wheel drive. Most of the time you'll be all right. With those other tips, you should now be armed with the information to diagnose a problem that you might have and fix the leaky tyre issue. So thank you very much for watching. If I've left anything out of what you might do in your procedures after four-wheeling, put them down below. I'd like to know. See a playlist on more tips with four-wheeling and beginners tips too. Just check out that video down here. You can subscribe over here. And if you'd like to support the creation of content like this, you can go to patreon.com/Ronnie Dahl. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.